Welcome to APCUG's Wednesday workshop, where we get together in the middle of the week to learn more about technology. Today, we are going to venture out into the Apple world. Not the apple a day keeps the doctor away, but this presentation is going to help you Apple users and Mac users take more command of your device. We're very excited to have with us again, who's been here before helping us learn more about the Apple world, is Joe Kissell. And Joe is the head of the publisher of Take Control Books. And he's written over 60 books and has a team of people who work with him to write books. And these are what they call the Take Control books. And that is the easy website to remember, www.takecontrolbooks.com. And you can go and sign up, get an account with them, and go over and look at all the books that Joe has for not just Apple, but for computer use as is. It's a great idea to go check on that. Lots of good programs. There are even some free books, I think, on there. And when you get books and then Joe comes out with a new edition, I just received an email that says, you get the new edition for the book that you already got. So check that out. Yes, Judy?
And we have a discount also. Get in touch with me.
Yeah, get in touch with Judy. But I'm just using this to plug the fact that here's a resource for Apple people and for non-Apple people that are computer users. So go check out takecontrolbooks.com. He formerly wrote just for this company, publications like at Macworld, Wirecutter, and Tidbits. Now he lives up in Saskatoon with his wife and their two sons, and he's up in the quiet in the area. And he now is kind of responsible for the Take books. Today, Joe's presentation is a practical guide for Mac users who want to work more efficiently. I always want computers working for you, not you for them. He demonstrates how to save time and effort and avoid uncertain or unnecessary errors when automating techniques. The presentation is designed to be accessible and beneficial to all users at all experience levels. You can begin, he says, by making most of the popular features such as Siri, Spotlight, and text replacement, and then move on to some more sophisticated Automator tools that are built into the Mac OS. And he's going to go over all of that today. So, Joe, welcome. Thank you for being here and share some knowledge about the Mac world for all of our Mac users and for Judy and me who like to know other things.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here with you as always. I'm going to share my screen in a second and show you some slides. I always build kind of a commercial into the beginning of my slideshows. Turns out that John and Judy have kind of stolen my thunder, and they've done the commercial for me. That's fine. So we're gonna skip past that stuff. But as they have both told you, we have ebooks on a wide variety of tech topics. Some of them, including the one that we'll be talking about today, are Mac specific or Apple specific. Many of them are not. So
don't go too fast past that, Joe, because some of us are visual learners, not audio.
Okay, all right. So let me begin by sharing this. All right, and every time I share my screen in Zoom, it puts things in a place I don't want them to be, so I have to rearrange them. So bear with me for one moment. That will probably do. And here we go. So we're going to talk about automating your Mac. If you don't have a Mac, you won't be able to put what I tell you today to use until you buy one. I mean, maybe you'll see something that makes you go, oh, I'm abandoning Windows. You probably won't, but you never know. So here we go. you've heard about Take Control books. We have ebooks on a wide variety of tech topics. Uh, we're going to be talking about the purple one, the one on the left today. Take Control of Automating Your Mac, which I wrote. I'm also going to be mentioning an app that comes with macOS, also comes with your iPhone or iPad, called Shortcuts. Shortcuts is one of many, many, many ways to automate your Mac. And if you decide that that particular way of automating your Mac is of special interest to you and you'd like to learn much, 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 much more about that particular app, you can buy Take Control of Shortcuts by Rosemary Orchard. Now, Judy mentioned that there's a discount for user group members. And when you go to our website, put some books in your cart, and you go to check out, there will be a little coupon code field there, and you pop this code in that field, click apply coupon, and you'll get 30% off of your order. So I hope that you will make a note of this or take a screenshot or whatever. Come to our website often and take advantage of this discount. And you can use it as many times as you want. I hope you find it helpful. All right, so we are talking about Mac automation. And when I wrote this book, I had to kind of figure out, well, boy, automation could mean a lot of different things. What's in and what's out? And I thought that it would be most helpful to take a very broad view of automation, to take the view that what we are trying to do when we're using our Mac is to make harder things easier, right? Take something that requires a lot of steps and turn it into fewer steps. We're talking about taking shortcuts, anything that you can do to make your Mac do work for you so that you don't have to do it yourself. In my book, that's automation. Now, we're going to start with this very broad definition, and we're going to go through a bunch of different kinds of automation, not all of the things that you can do, not all of the things the book covers, because I don't want to keep you here all day. But we're going to go through a number of different types of automation, including some of the ones that are more traditionally associated with that word automation, like AppleScript and JavaScript and shell scripts and shortcuts and so forth. So when I say that automating your Mac is all about shortcuts, that's little letter S, shortcuts generically. We will be mentioning the Shortcuts app, capital S, a little bit later. So we're going to find easier ways to do the stuff we're already doing. And I want to emphasize that what I'm talking about in this book is mechanical tasks, not creative tasks. Now, there will be those who say, well, what about AI? Isn't AI the ultimate automation thing? It will write things for me. It'll create pictures for me. It will also spew out a lot of nonsense for you. I'm sure AI has its place. This book isn't about that. This book is about figuring out which tasks, non-creative tasks, mechanical tasks. I have to do this, and I had to do this, and I had to do this, and I had to figure out that, and I had to do this. Which kinds of tasks can be made easier? So I'm going to give you a few examples of shortcuts. So there's, there you go. There's keyboard shortcuts. So let's say you have to do some procedure and you could go search around the menus, because I know it's a submenu of a submenu is something around that. You can do that. Or for most things that are menu commands on your Mac, you can assign a keyboard shortcut to it. So you just go, and it's not just commands on menus either. As we'll talk about a little bit, you can create macros that will do almost anything you can imagine on your Mac, and then assign a keyboard shortcut to that. You have a toolbar at the top of most Mac windows, and you can change what icons appear there. You can add some stuff, remove some stuff, rearrange some things. If you have a certain vintage of MacBook Pro, there's also a little strip across the top of it that has it's touch sensitive and it has a display. It's called a touch bar. They don't make those anymore, but some people still have them, and you can customize what that does. There are text expansions or substitutions. So you type a little thing and it automatically turns into a big thing, and I'll be showing you some of that. What if you have to open an app, but you're not exactly sure where it is, or maybe you're not even sure what the name of it is, or you don't want to have to dig around through this folder and this folder and this folder and double click something? You can use a launcher, which could be Spotlight, or it could be any of numerous other tools that I'll mention to open stuff for you, not just apps, but also documents, music, calendar entries, all kinds of things. There's also automatic software updates. Now, of course, software is updated all the time, and you can go through every single app manually and download and install an update if you want. But since this is something that all of us, most of us do very, very frequently, I am an advocate of just turning on automatic software updates for pretty much everything. There's something I call smart containers. So a smart container is basically a saved search. I'll give you an example. In music, the music app, you might have a smart playlist. That smart playlist might show you your 25 most frequently played songs. And the contents of that list will change as you play more songs more often or other songs less often. So it's like a saved search. It will dynamically update itself to show you the current value of 25 most recently played songs. In mail, you might have a smart mailbox that shows you all and only the messages from a certain sender on a certain subject, for example. You can create whatever criteria you like, and as you get new messages that meet that criteria, those criteria, they will show up in that smart mailbox. And there are smart folders in the Finder and smart containers of other sorts in other applications as well. There's Siri, which, by the way, is about to get a lot smarter come this fall or early next year. You may have heard the announcements at WWDC about Apple Intelligence and how that's going to improve Siri. Siri lets you talk to your Mac and get it to do things without having to figure out what to click on or what thing to press. And that's another way of automating your Mac. Also, dictation. If you don't want to type or you're not physically able to type, you can talk to your Mac and it will turn your live spoken content into text on the screen. There's also voice control, which is a lot more elaborate than Siri. Voice control lets you it was originally designed for people with various sorts of disabilities, but it can be used by anyone. It allows you to use your voice to click anything on the screen or to operate various kinds of controls. It's very, very powerful and quite cool. Email rules. If you're always getting the APCUG newsletter and every time you do that, you want it to be filed into a certain mailbox, well, you don't have to do that manually. You could set up a rule to do that. So email rules are great for any kind of thing, oh, whenever I get an email from this person, just delete it. Or whenever I get this sort of message, flag it so that I know it's extra important. And email apps, including Apple Mail, Outlook, Thunderbird, many others have those types of rules. Still more examples. Autofilling forms on web pages. Oh, you go to some website and you're going to buy something. It needs your name, your address, your phone number. Well, don't type that stuff in. Let your browser or a password manager, some other tool, fill all that stuff in for you automatically. There are tools that will fill in your username, your password, all kinds of other information, credit card information. And boy, I type things in web forms a lot, and I really appreciate that kind of automation. Another thing that definitely should be updated is backups. It's 2024, and weirdly, some people still don't back up their computers. I can't, I can't even. You have to back up your computer. You have to, have to, have to. If you don't back up your computer, you are computing on borrowed time. Something will go wrong. Now, you could manually back up your computer whenever you feel like it, but it's much easier to just say, okay, well, I'm going to turn on the thing, and then every hour or however often you choose, it's going to back up automatically. Time Machine is a backup program built into macOS. You might choose to use that. There are many others as well. You copy something, you paste something, you copy something, you paste something. We've all done this a million times. What I often find is that I copy something and I paste it, and I copy something else and I paste it. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I need the thing before. I need the thing that I copied the time before, or the time before that, or the time before that. So there are clipboard utilities that will remember not just the last thing you copied, but a very, very long history. And not only can they remember other things that you previously copied and let you paste them immediately, they can also manipulate stuff on your keyboard, or on your clipboard. You want to turn that thing from style text into plain text, or you want to make some kind of text substitution or something, you can do that. Also, word processing automation. Now, I'm an author and a publisher, so word processors are my main tool, and I do a lot of very, very complicated, extreme word processing. And I'm going to show you a little bit later an example of something that I do when I am creating one of our books that I would never get anything done if I couldn't automate things like this. So uh, there are those sort of easy examples. There are also some system-wide tools that you may or may not be aware of. There's something called services, where you can select something, select some text on a web page or an email or wherever, or select a document or a picture or something out in the Finder, and then go to a special menu that will let you run various kinds of automations on that. Those are called services, and I talk about those in the book. There is the app, capital S shortcuts, that can automate a lot of things in a very friendly way. There is another app called Automator, which was sort of, it still exists, but it was sort of the predecessor to shortcuts. It's another way of creating multi-step automations. And there are so many more. How many more? Well, AppleScript, shell scripts, macro utilities, which I will touch on today, but again, we only have so much time. And then there's all these other things that we're not even going to mention. There are so many other ways of automating your Mac that I do talk about in the book, but we just aren't going to have time at all. The point is, there are lots and lots of ways that anybody can get their Mac to do more stuff for them with much less effort, and you do not have to wear a propeller beanie. You don't have to be a programmer. You don't have to be a computer geek. These are things that almost anyone can do. And of course, if you are more technically inclined, then great, you can go deeper and do even more advanced things. But I try to write all of my books for just ordinary lay people. So I want to spend a moment talking about the difference between people who automate things and people who don't. I want to talk about what I call the automator's mindset, how you think about using your Mac and how you think about shortcuts. Someone who is thinking like an automator is going to be looking for ways to do things like this. Click less. Well, I could click here and click here and click here and click here and click here, and that will do the thing. What if I could find a way to do the same thing with only one click? Or I turn 12 clicks into 3 clicks. It's not just a matter of clicking your mouse takes a little time. it's a matter of, well, I had to find where to click and move my mouse and do that. And when you do very many multi-step processes, that can really be quite time consuming. Not just clicking less, but also typing faster. In my work, I am constantly typing certain words and phrases, like the URL of our website, or take control of followed by something, or the name of some piece of software like DevonThink. And it would drive me crazy to have to type all of those letters every single time, especially when it's not just a word, especially when it's, a paragraph that I type a lot. So I use tools to help me automate things that would otherwise be a lot of tedious typing. I mentioned keyboard shortcuts earlier. They are among my favorite things in the world, and those can be assigned to almost any task on your Mac. They prevent you from having to search for command. And in addition, if we're talking about macros, they can wrap many different steps into one. Another thing that's really important for an automator is to avoid repetition. You do something and then you do the same thing again, maybe with a slight variation, and then you do the same thing again, and you do the same thing again. For me, if I know that I'm going to be doing something more than once, I would rather automate it so that I do it once and then I let the automation take over. Another thing you want to avoid is repetition. Oh, yeah, that was intentional. And a big one is to make fewer mistakes. Some of the things I do on my Mac are like involved. They're highly technical. They involve a lot of tweaky little steps. And sometimes I, being human, screw things up. If I'm doing a certain set of tasks over and over again, and I want to make sure they're done exactly the same way every time and not subject to human error, automating them is a good way to do that. So how do you develop an automator's mindset? Well, you want to take your favorite device. I like, do you like my new iPad? It's so thin. Um, I like using paper for this. Use whatever you like. I like to just have a little notepad, and as I am doing my normal stuff on my Mac, I make a little list. I notice, boy, I had to click 10 times to do this thing. Oh, make a little note. What did I do? You don't have to write down every single click, but just write down what the activity was. Oh, I typed this phrase again for the umpteenth time today. Write that down. Anytime you notice something that is repetitive that you do, or that seems like it requires too many steps, or that is error prone, put it on your list. Then you take my book and say, okay, now which of these tools can I use to make that easier? But this isn't just about productivity. I mean, yes, it's great to save effort and do things faster, but for me, automation is also about having fun. And to illustrate this, I just take a 5-minute break here and tell you a little story, which is goofy and a little weird, but but there's a point to it. So years ago, many years ago, I used to work for Kensington. Kensington makes, mice and trackballs and keyboards and computer accessories. You may have heard of them. So I worked for Kensington, and I was in charge of their mouse software. I worked in a big room called the Mouse Lab with 3 other people. So there was me, there was Deborah, Don, and Chris. And each of us had a couple of computers on our desk, and we each had a Kensington Expert mouse. So this is a big trackball track. I have one in the closet. I should have brought it out to show you, but it has a trackball the size of like a billiard ball and 4 buttons. You'll see a picture of it. So we each had these, and all 4 of those buttons could be programmed to do anything. So here's me, and I've got my computer, and I've got my trackball. And what I did was I programmed one of the buttons on Sorry, I got ahead of myself. I went into my email program. We happen to be using Microsoft Outlook, but you could do this with Apple Mail or with pretty much anything. I went into my email program and I made a rule. Remember, I talked about mail rules? Well, sometimes mail rules are used to sort messages, but they can be used for other things too. And one of the things they can be used for is to play a sound. So I made a rule in my mail program. Anytime I get a message from Dawn, it makes a pop sound. Really easy. Just sender is Dawn. Action is play sound pop. Great. So then I made another rule for Deborah. Every time I get an email from Deborah, it makes a buzz sound. And every time I get an email from Chris, it makes a zing sound. Okay, so you with me so far? We're in this office, 4 people. I have my computer set up so that when any one of those other 3 people sends me an email message, my computer makes a distinctive sound. Okay, so that was step 1. Now, it wasn't just me doing this, it was all 4 of us doing this. Okay, so each of the people in this office set up our computers so that when another person in the office sent them a message, they would get some sort of distinctive sound playing. All right. Now, next step, we take our Kensington Expert Mouse trackball. And as I said, it has programmable buttons. So I programmed one of the buttons on my trackball to send a blank message to Dawn, and another to send a blank message to Deborah, and another to send a blank message to Chris. And my coworkers all did the same thing. What this meant was I'm sitting at my desk and I click one button on my trackball. Chris's computer makes a funny sound. I click another button on my trackball. Deborah's computer makes a different sound. I click another button on my trackball, and Dawn's computer makes a different sound. And they can all do the same thing to me and to each other. So we sat there all afternoon, clicking and popping and zapping each other just by pressing buttons on our trackballs, not because it aided our productivity, but because we could, and it was fun. Now, it's okay to have fun with your computer, and you can do that. What I just described, you don't have to have a Mac to do this. You can do this with any kind of computer. You can do this with a PC as well. But the point is, we were making software to automate things, but give you a one-click way to do stuff with your mouse or trackball. And we were thinking like automators. And this is what I want you to do too, is to think like an automator. Okay, so giving you a little background, now I want to actually share my screen and show you some of these automation tools that I talk about in the book in real time. So I'm going to hide this, and whoops, I gotta stop sharing. I gotta change my sharing to be my whole screen. We don't need to see Zoom. We'll get back to that. I really hope. Okay, there we go. So I'm hoping that you can see my screen now. If you can't, somebody should yell at me.
You can see it.
Awesome. So this is again where I refer to, like, I'm using my computer to show you my screen. So I have my my cheat sheet here of what I'm going to show you. Okay, so let's start out with some really, really simple things. Let me just hide some stuff in my menu bar here, if it'll let me. You'll notice this little icon in the menu bar shaped like a magnifying glass. This is Spotlight. If you click it, this little, let me just move this out of the way. This little Spotlight search thing pops up. You can also press Command Spacebar to bring this up. And Spotlight is Apple's sort of system-wide search tool, and it lets you search for almost anything in any file. But what I want to show you right now is using this as a launcher. So let's say I want to open Apple's Numbers app, spreadsheet app called Numbers. I'm going to type it. Whoops, I'm sorry. Let's try that again. type in I started typing NU and it auto-filled. Oh, here's something ending. Here's the ending of something beginning with NU. It's Numbers app. Great. So I can just hit return, and there we go. Numbers is launching, and I'm not going to bother like actually opening this or doing anything. It's only to illustrate. You can, you can use Spotlight as a launcher, and you don't have to know where the app is. Maybe I want to run disk utility. I'm not sure. It's not in my main applications folder. Where is it? Well, I just start typing the word, and there it is, and it opens. All right. So using Spotlight as a launcher is one thing, but it can also do other things. Let's say I need to do a little bit of math. Well, you just type numbers and operators, and it gives you the result right there. So you don't have to search. Like, yes, of course, there's a calculator app, and there are other ways to do many other ways to do calculations on your Mac. But you can also simply press Command Spacebar, the thing pops up, and you type in what you want to calculate. So Spotlight is great because it's built in and it's very easy to use. It is not, however, the most capable or the most powerful launcher out there. In my book, I talk about several others. There's Alfred, there's Quicksilver, there's LaunchBar, and there's a relatively new one called Raycast. So again, you can pick a keyboard shortcut. You might choose Control Spacebar or whatever you like, some keyboard combination that will bring up your launcher. In this example, I'm going to show you Raycast because it's the one I happen to be liking at the moment. So I type the special shortcut for that, and this thing pops up, which looks very much like the Spotlight window. And I could do exactly the same thing. I could start typing letters of an app, and sure enough, it would show me that app, and it could open. And I could, let's type in, MAI for mail, and there's mail. Okay. And as you use it, it will sort of learn what apps and files and folders and other types of data you use frequently, and it will sort of bubble those up to the top. So if you want to just launch apps, that's one thing you can do. It will also, of course, do math, but it has some other capabilities as well. So for example, sometimes I will have a document that I want to open in not the default app for that document. All right, so here's just our Take Control Books logo. And if I double click this, it's going to open up, yeah, you don't need that. It's going to open up that PNG graphic in Preview, Apple's Preview app. So that's great if I just want to see what it looks like, but maybe I want to edit this. And so I want to open it up in a different app. Well, I set up Raycast with an optional shortcut called Open With. So that file is selected out there in the Finder, and I open up Raycast, and I'm going to type OW for Open With. And I'm going to press sorry, I realized, all right, I pressed return, and now I'm going to choose the app I want to open that. In this case, I'm going to choose Acorn, which is an image editor. I mean, I could have chosen Photoshop or any of numerous others, but I'm just going to choose Acorn. And now it's going to, let's embiggen that, open up that same image in the Acorn app. So that's just like one quick example of 1,000 things I could show you in Raycast. But if you're often opening one file in a different application, which is something I do all the time, that could be nice. Now, Raycast, if you open it up and press Option, Shift, Space, then Command, comma, there we go. You can see all of its settings, and here on the extensions page, these are the extensions that I happen to have installed. Some of them were built in, some of them are optional that I downloaded later. There's they call it a store, but everything is free. It's just sort of a catalog of extensions that will add new features to Raycast for maybe other apps you happen to be using. So I happen to use 1Password, and you can get an extension for Raycast that enables it to control some of the actions of 1Password, just as an example. There are many, many, many of them, and just kind of searching around there, you will find some very, very interesting things. Now, the store. Okay, so let's say that I'm insufficiently caffeinated and I've forgotten. Okay, where I want to show you the store. Where exactly is this? And I don't remember. I'm sure it's on some menu someplace. I might be able to do that. That didn't work in this particular case because the store isn't on a menu. But if there were a menu command, using that search field in the help menu is an easy way to find it. And I've lost my mind. I'm not immediately remembering where the store is. So let's do this. Typed in the word store. I'll let the computer find it for me. There it is. Great. So now I can find any kind of it. Let's see, what kind of an app? Maybe, okay, we're using Zoom. I wonder if there is an extension for Zoom. Oh, look, there's a couple of extensions for Zoom. So I'll bet if I installed this, there would be a Raycast shortcut for me to start and stop meetings and turn screen sharing on and off and so forth. So these are just a few examples. I want to take you into Apple's System Settings app and show you text expansion. So let's scroll down here to Keyboard and scroll down here to Text Replacements. Now, some of these were built in and some of these I created myself. This is a built-in part of macOS, and it simply says, if you type what's on the left, what you get is what's on the right. So let me just demonstrate this. I'm going to open a plain text edit document, and we'll move this out of the way. And let's say I want to type the square root symbol, but I don't remember the key combination to get that. I'm going to type :SQR, and it's immediately replaced with a square root. If I want to type that shrug emoticon, I can type /SHRUG and space, and it turns automatically into that because that's the shortcut I've set up. So, I want to type the URL for my website. Let's just type JURL and boom, there it is. And you can use this not just for short phrases, you can use it for very long things as well. And it's very, very handy. Problem with this type of text expansion is that it doesn't have a lot of flexibility. In about 2 minutes, I will show you a different way to do this that gives you considerably more flexibility. But in fact, let's not wait 2 minutes. Let's do it right now. I'm going to open a third-party text expansion utility called Text Expander. And let's just go ahead and open the app here. There it is. All right. So Text Expander, and this is not the only app of this sort. There are several others as well. There's one called Type It For Me. There's one called Typeinator, for example. Again, lets you do the whole like type one thing and get something else out. It might be a longer thing. It might be a shorter thing. But one of the things the Text Expander lets you do is add variables. So you could have a shortcut that you type something and it gives you what it gives you contains like the current date or time. So let's just try this. I'm going to type TMST, and there is the current time in Saskatoon. How did I get that? Well, over here, this is my shortcut for when I type this abbreviation TMST, this is what I get. So I can use this field here to create all kinds of wacky, elaborate things that could involve scripts and variables and all kinds of stuff. But if I just want something simple like the date or the time, I can do that. what if I did this? I'm going to type A-H-R and a space. I'm writing some HTML, and boy, I put in these kinds of tags a lot when I'm writing HTML, but I don't want to have to type left angle bracket A space href equals blah, blah, blah all the time. Instead, why don't I let a text snippet do that work for me? And you may have noticed when I typed what did I say, AHR, and I pressed the space, not only did it put that tag there, but you'll notice that it put the insertion point right here, right where I have to actually type something. If I had copied a URL onto my clipboard first, like let's say I've copied this, Command C, now I type AHR, it's going to do something else. It's going to put the contents of the clipboard right here in the destination. So that's Text Expander, and boy, Text Expander can do way, way, way more than that, but I don't have time to tell you about it all today. Let's delete this and move on to our next tool, which is called Keyboard Maestro. I have lots and lots of automation tools on my Mac. If I could only pick one, the only automation tool I would ever be able to use for the rest of my life, it would be this one, Keyboard Maestro. It doesn't come with your Mac. It's a commercial utility. I don't remember how much it costs. I want to say it's like maybe in the $50 range, but it is the most valuable tool I have on my Mac by far. It can do almost anything. It is at sort of basic level a macro utility. You say, I want to do this, and then I want to do this, and then I want to do this, and it does it. But all those individual steps can have branches and variables and logic and all that kind of stuff if you want it and if you need it. So I'm going to take you back to system settings to show you an example of something that I used Keyboard Maestro for. So sometimes I need to change which items open when I log into my Mac. And Apple keeps moving the login items pane now. So when I open this, it opens to appearance, but I need to go to General. And then I need to go to Login Items. So that's really, it's only 2 clicks, but I also have to sort of hunt for those things. And here I am at Login Items. If I close System Settings, open it up again, whoops, I lost my mouse there. There we go. It goes back to Appearance, and I have to go through those steps again. I thought, well, wouldn't it be neat if I could go straight to Login Items in one step? So I just made myself a little macro to do that. And I'm going to show you the steps here. Step 1, activate system settings. Step 2, wait until system settings has finished opening. Step 3, use a menu command to go straight to login items. And I assigned this keyboard shortcut to it. Option Shift Command L. So I'm going to press Option Shift Command L, and there it is. All right, so this is a silly little example because all it did was save me 2 or 3 clicks, but this kind of thing could become much, much more elaborate. And some of my macros, oh boy, they go on and on and on. They get quite involved. And this saves me so much effort when I'm doing repetitive tasks, and again, helps to prevent me from making mistakes. Now I'm going to show you a much cooler example of using Keyboard Maestro in a moment, but I wanted to mention in passing, remember how earlier I said there are clipboard utilities that can remember not just the last thing you copied or cut, but a whole bunch of them. Keyboard Maestro has clipboard management as one of its features. In addition to all the macros, it can also do clipboard histories. So you don't have to have an additional app to do that. You can just use this. So the keyboard shortcut that I have selected to show my clipboard history in this particular app is Command Shift \. When I press that combination, this window opens, Clipboard History Switcher. And this shows me things that I've copied. You notice I copied that recently. I copied some stuff, some graphics, some text, some URLs from a bunch of different documents going way, 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 way back. So if I wanted to now paste one of these things, if I like, it's like I want item 1, I could just press the number 1 or number 2, or I could simply use my mouse. Here, let's go over here. Use my mouse to select that, press return, and no, let's just, I don't really want to put that in there, but it's that easy to go back to earlier things on your clipboard. All right, I'm going to open my favorite word processor here, which is called Nisus Writer Pro, and I'm going to open a document in it. Could have just done that directly. Oh, look, it's the manuscript for Take Control of Automating Your Mac, 5th edition. So this book is, it's still figuring out how long, 292 pages long, has lots and lots of stuff in it. When you buy this book, you're not going to see, obviously, all the other stuff around like you're seeing here. You'll just see a PDF or EPUB version of this, but this is that book. All right, now, Nisus Writer as a word processor has some interesting features, and I want to show you a couple that I just really, really love. One of them is multi-key shortcuts. What do I mean by that? Well, normally you press one or more modifier keys like Control or Option or Command or Shift, one or more of those, and then you press one letter or one number, and then a thing happens. But in Nisus Writer, your keyboard shortcuts can contain more than one consecutive character. For example, let's say I want to cross out this word using strike through. I'm going to, you can't see my keyboard, unfortunately, but I'm going to press Command ST, and ST applied the strike through style to it. How did I set that up? Well, let me show you. I'm going to press Command MK. That's Command M, keep holding Command and press K. And what that did was bring me to the menu keys preference. And here I can see all of the different activities in Nisus Writer and assign keyboard shortcuts to any of them. So for example, if I go here to the edit menu, I'm sorry, to the format menu, I can apply character styles, paragraph styles, all these different things. Okay, and strike through, I actually applied that in a different way. Let me show you this one here. No. Okay, so I like to sometimes highlight things in yellow or green. I've selected green here as an example, and my keyboard shortcut for that is Command HG. So let's type Command HG, and of course you can't see it because I have change tracking turned on, but there it is. It's actually highlighted in green. Turn that off. I'll try something else. Let's just go Command HG. Great, there, it's highlighted in green. I also have another command, Command RH for remove highlighting, and that removes all of my highlighting. So this is just an example. I use these multi-key shortcuts all the time because they're a lot easier to remember than, oh, it was Command, Option, Shift, stand in my head. When we create our books, we create two formats. We create PDFs, and it's very easy to create a PDF, although merely saving a PDF is only the beginning of our process. We have about 12 other steps involving, I think, 4 or 5 other apps to do additional processing to make our PDFs really pretty and usable. But we also like to create books in EPUB format, which you would use on a Kindle or in Amazon, in Apple's Books app or in some other kind of e-reader. And in order to create those EPUBs, we have this tiny little macro that I wrote. I'm just going to show you what the macro looks like. It's called Make Markdown Pro, and it's just this. So it's, pretty self-explanatory, just right there, just that. I'm kidding, of course. This is a very, very elaborate macro, but Nicest Writer Pro happens to have its own built-in macro language. I mean, Word has Visual Basic, okay? So this is kind of like that. A built-in language for creating macros that automate stuff that Nicest Writer does. So part of our production process, in order to get to eventually the EPUBs formatted just the way we want them, is to first convert this beautiful text with colors and styles and graphics into Markdown, which is a plain text markup language that we're then going to post-process. And that's what this macro does. It does all these operations on this file to turn it into Markdown. So I'm just going to run this macro for you and show you what that looks like. Go here and it'll take about 30 seconds to run all right. The demo gods are clearly not smiling on me, and it's stuck. So let's try that one more time. Grows. No, okay. I have a feeling that Zoom is interfering with this macro. The screen sharing is interfering with the macro, because what was trying to happen was a dialogue was popping up to ask me a very important question that I had to answer, but I can't see the dialogue. So I'm just going to try one thing here. I'm going to try, I don't know if this will work. If I do this and just press return, maybe, there we go. All right. I couldn't see the dialogue because Zoom was hiding it, but I answered it anyway. All right, so what this macro is doing right now, that will take about 30 seconds, is it is going through and saying, oh, well, here's this text in this particular heading style. So now I need to convert that into the markdown that represents that. Here I have a URL, here I have a cross-reference, here I have a figure number. I have to change all these elements in the book that are right now represented in beautiful rich text into a simplified version that we'll be able to then apply some other processing to. So it does all that stuff, and you can see as we go along, the text becomes sort of less and less pretty. More and more of it's being replaced with plain text, and it's just about done. And there we go. So what it created out of that beautiful document is this here. All right, it's that same document, but instead of in a nice purple colored sidebar, we have this. Instead of a link, we get that, and so forth. Now, all we have to do to turn this into a beautiful EPUB is run a Keyboard Maestro macro. And I want to show you what that macro looks like here. So here, let's just do this, because there are so many of them. Great. So what my Keyboard Maestro macro does is it runs this shell script. There's a command line program called pandoc that actually does the conversion. It has all these special parameters that I've figured out. And instead of opening up the terminal application and typing all that stuff in there, I just say, you know what I really want to do? I want to press this keyboard combination here, and I want to just have it happen. So here's what I do. I select that text file, I press that keyboard combination, and there it is. That simple. Here's the EPUB. If I double click it, it's going to open in Apple's Books app. There it is. And there's the file. So 30 seconds ago, this was just markup, but now it's a complete linked. Oh, great. Yes. Of course, while I'm doing a demo, I'm going to randomly encounter an error because the demo gods hate me. But that's the general idea, is that I have a keyboard shortcut to run a complicated shell script, and things just happen. Now, the sort of, yes, just quit. Thank you. The sort of old school way to automate something on your Mac was to use something called AppleScript. AppleScript still exists. It's still very, very powerful and useful. And I just want to show you a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of AppleScript just to get your feet wet. How am I going to open the script editor that I use for AppleScript? Well, I'm going to press my keyboard shortcut to open up Raycast. I'm going to type in SE for script editor. There it is. Press return. And let's just go ahead and create a new document. Now, I'm going to show you some live programming. Are you ready for some live programming? You too can open up Script Editor and write your first AppleScript program. Are you ready? Here it is. Done. I typed the word beep. That's it. Let's run it. It beeped. Success. That's it. So I demonstrate this just to show you that although AppleScript can be very elaborate, it can also be very simple. So some of the most useful commands turn out to be very, very short and kind of human readable. So you just type the word beep, and now you have a script that if you run it, it beeps. Well, I want to do something a little bit more than beep. You see this document over here, this demo document that says once upon a time, and the word upon and time are in big green letters. Well, I want to use AppleScript to change some of that formatting. Now, I wrote an AppleScript to do that earlier, and how might I get it to appear here? Well, I put it in text expander. So all I have to do to type my script is to go. This is my my shortcut for that particular AppleScript. I type /sed. I press the space bar, and there it pasted in the AppleScript that I wrote earlier. And I'm just going to click this to beautify the text so it's a little bit easier to read. There's my script. This is an example of a very, very simple AppleScript that would operate on another app. So I want to look at the second line first. It's saying, tell the front document of the application, text edit. Okay, here's text edit. That's the application, and there's the front document. Tell that to do something. And this is what I'm going to tell text edit's front document to do. Set the properties of the second word, that must be this word right here, of the first paragraph, there's only one paragraph, to the style. And the style is what I set up here. I picked a font, and I picked a color, and I picked a size. So if I run this script by clicking the play button, there, it changed that word to a different color and a different size and a different font. I could choose something different. I could choose different font. I could choose different size. I could choose different color and run it. And there we go. Right? So AppleScript can be quite inscrutable sometimes, but also it can allow you to do some very straightforward things without a lot of complicated programming knowledge. I want to wrap up this portion of the presentation by just quickly showing you the Shortcuts app. Now, I was running through my presentation earlier, and I tried the thing that I normally demonstrate at this point, and it didn't work. And the reason it didn't work is that right now I'm using a new Mac, and when I was setting up the new Mac, I forgot to copy some stuff onto it that it would have needed to to work with that demo shortcut. So I just picked a different one. And this is a simple shortcut I downloaded called Turn Text into Audio. And it does kind of exactly what it says. It takes any text that you have either selected or typed and turns it into audio. Now, here's what the shortcut looks like. It's just 3 steps. You receive some text, you make spoken audio from it, and you play the spoken audio. So if I simply run this shortcut, it would ask me for some text. So I would say, type something in, click done, and it's going to convert that into audio. And it's going to make that audio into a little file that I can just, sorry, play.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to be here.
All right. Now I can also use this within an app. So I can select something over here, control click, go to the services submenu. Remember I mentioned services earlier, and use the turn text into audio shortcut. And now we'll use that selected text to do the same thing.
Once upon a time.
All right. Now, of course, shortcuts can do much, 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 much more. So much more that we have a whole book on it. But what I'm trying to show you here is that automation does not have to be very, very complicated. It can be simple and can still do useful things for you. So I'm going to switch back to my presentation here for a moment. Oops, let's stop sharing that and let's start sharing this. There we go. We saw stuff. So if you have learned the easy things and now you want to learn some of the more complicated stuff like shell scripts, AppleScripts, Automator, Keyboard Maestro, how might an ordinary person go about doing that? Well, my advice is first, download some sample stuff that was written by other people. Download some shortcuts, download some AppleScripts, download some shell scripts that other people wrote. Just pop them in and run them and notice what happens. Then once you're comfortable running stuff other people have written, make a little modification, just like I did to the font and the size and that AppleScript. Change something little, run that, see what happens. Keep trying to change more things. And you might have to do some research to find out what to change and how to change it, but experiment by changing things other people have written. When you are comfortable modifying other people's scripts and shortcuts and things, you can start making your own, but using other people's work as a guide so that you have a better idea of where you're going to end up. As we wrap this up, I want to talk about your automation strategy. Hopefully, you will actually make a list where you notice things where you're clicking too much or typing too much or doing repetitive actions, and you will pick up the books so that you can learn about these different ways of simplifying those tasks. My first piece of advice is think about tasks first, tools second. I've known very, very many people, and I've had this tendency myself to say, oh, well, I want to use whatever for everything. I want to use Keyboard Maestro for everything. I want to use AppleScript for everything. I want to use shortcuts for everything. And you get hung up on the tool, but sometimes the tool that you're hung up on is not the right tool for the job. So think about what you are trying to accomplish first, and then match each particular task with the right tool. Always start small. Don't imagine you're going to automate everything that happens during your day all at once. Start with little things and build up. And of course, if you are looking for just one technology out of these many, 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 many to try, I really recommend Keyboard Maestro. I don't get paid by them or anything, but it's a very, very powerful tool that is still easy to use, and it can automate almost anything you can imagine, plus the clipboard history, keyboard shortcuts, all kinds of things. I said this earlier, but I wanted to show you one last time. We have this coupon code here for a discount on our books. I hope you'll take advantage of it. And I know that I've gone over a little bit. I'm really sorry for that, but there was so much to say. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and ask if anyone has any quick questions.
We'll start with Judy, who has collected a few. And I'd like to say thank you very much, because even as a Linux user and a Windows user part-time, I think I can take some of those ideas and search my devices to see if I can't do some of the same stuff.
I'm sure you can.
Absolutely fantastic, Joe. I love the demo gods. The demo gods get all of us, and I never thought of putting it that way. I would tell my students there's Grammys in your computer, and we can talk about it the rest of class, but we'll never figure out what happened. Same thing.
Yep. Yep.
Great presentation. I'm a shortcut user since the WordPerfect days, and I truly do not understand why people click on so many things when they could do a two-finger, keyboard shortcut, and boom, it's done. And you just reinforce that.
Oh yeah, sometimes I'll be watching somebody else use their computer and they like highlight some text by click here, drag over and then they go up to the edit menu and copy. I'm like, no, don't do it. You double click on a word to select it, and there's a Command C or Control C depending on your computer. Like, it just, when I see people not using keyboard shortcuts, it just physically hurts me. Sorry.
Control P, enter, and boom, you're done. You get up and do something else. We have Steve who would like to know, when pressing buttons on your Kensington trackballs, what sound did you create?
Oh, this was like 20 years ago. Okay, so I don't actually remember. I'm pretty sure we just used an assortment of sounds that were just like, we didn't make our own sounds. We just used sounds that were built into the computers. So I'm sorry I couldn't tell you exactly what they were offhand. Okay.
And Bill James has he has a mini Mac that it just appeared one day, so to speak. And he's a Windows guy, so he put a presentation together for us on learning to use a Mac from a Windows point of view. On this is what I do with Windows. How do I do it with Mac? And that was a fun one. And he's been working along with you the whole entire presentation, which is the name of the game as far as I'm concerned. But he would like to know if Raycast is an app that you download.
Yes, Raycast is an app that you download. It's a sort of freemium app, so you can use most of its features for free. If you want to use like AI features or special stuff, then you pay, a monthly subscription fee. I don't. Okay, I use the free version because the free version does all the things that I personally need. All of the tools that do that sort of thing better than Spotlight. All the other tools are just commercial from the get-go. So I love the fact that there is. No, that's not true. That's not true. Quicksilver and Alfred are not commercial. I was thinking of Launch Bar. Anyway, but I love the fact that Raycast does give you a lot of power for free, and then if it turns out that you do want some of those fancy extra features, you can pay them some money.
And he said his script editor doesn't look like the one you demonstrated. Is AppleScript built in? His Mac is running Sonoma.
This Mac is also running Sonoma. So I don't know what you are seeing in Script Editor. It is built in. It's possible that there are like different views of the window. I have to like take a look at what you're seeing. Maybe you could send me a screenshot and I can say, oh yeah. But this is what I see on all of my Macs.
Okay, I'm sure he'll be doing that almost instantly.
Okay.
Are there any other questions for Joe? It's a comprehensive presentation, so I don't know. Murray, who lives in Victoria area.
Oh, unmute yourself.
We still can't hear.
Murray, you got the Zoom bug again.
Yep.
Because it's
I
not
can see your lips moving,
mic.
but I can't hear you.
Yeah, it's the wrong mic setting.
How about is that
there?
There
Now
you
you got it.
Yeah, okay.
Helps you if you turn it on, kiddo.
Yeah, well, there's too many buttons I got to push to get it turned on because I got the ones on the headphone plus the one on the screen. Okay, a couple of things. First of all, I went to your website and I tried to open an account and I couldn't see how to do it. I didn't see an option to create.
You buy a book. You
buy a book. Oh,
you buy a book and you get an account. So there's no reason to have an account
unless
if you don't buy anything. That account doesn't accomplish anything. So when you buy something, we create an account for you automatically. We thought that was just like the easiest way to do it.
Now, do you have Like, I'm in Canada and you're in Canada.
Yeah.
Can I just pay this in Canadian dollars with a Canadian
Yes.
credit card without going through any exchanges?
Yes,
Without
you,
going
you
through a
absolutely
bank
can. So
exchange?
all the prices on our site are shown in US dollars. But when you go to check out, you put stuff in your cart, you click checkout. The screen that pops up to accept your payment will automatically translate that into whatever your local currency is. So it'll translate it into Canadian dollars if you're in Canada, and you can pay in Canadian dollars.
Okay, as long as I pay them, because I know some of the sites, when you do that, it actually charges you in American dollars. So then your bank charges you another fee.
Yeah, no. I mean, like, yeah. I live in Canada, so I couldn't have that.
Okay, and then do you need two separate books, one for the shortcuts and one for the, I don't know, whatever this
Yeah.
presentation is on?
So take control of automating your Mac is the overview.
Okay.
And it gives you a little bit of shortcuts, a little bit of keyboard maestro, and a little bit of, Raycast, a little bit of every. It's the survey course.
Okay.
And if you decide that the thing that you want to really dig into and know more than 10 pages about is shortcuts, then you can get the shortcuts book, and that will give you elaborate detail on just that one app. We don't have books on every app. Like you can find books on AppleScript that are like, I don't know, 900 pages long. That's not kind of our
And then you mentioned copying things that other people have done. Do you have a lot of examples of things that people have done, or links to places where you get all these things? Like, for example, shortcuts. I would like a shortcut that would let me, let's say, take a picture of this receipt, crop it, and make it look just so it's just the receipt, and put it into this folder. I assume you could do that with shortcuts.
You could do something like that. Now yes, you could do something like that. I don't know if you will be able to find any pre-written shortcuts that will do exactly that. The thing that's giving me pause about what you're describing is that something like cropping an image is not something. It requires a little bit of manual
requires a
work,
little
right?
bit.
You want to,
Well, for example, if you use a Google's photo scan and you take a picture of a receipt, it'll pretty well do the job, as long as you've got
Right.
on a good background. It'll crop it correctly and straighten it. I mean, that'll
Right. So-
happen
so-
automatically. So then if I wanted to do something, said, okay, use that app to take a picture of the receipt and then put it into this file. Let's say it's a medical receipt. I want to go into the medical file receipts on my Mac or wherever.
Right. So what the way shortcuts is designed, it has to do a series of tasks kind of all in a row. What it can't do is say, okay, I'm going to press this shortcut, take me to this app, do a thing in that app, leave that app open, pause, don't do anything, wait until I've finished cropping it, and I click a button, and then do more stuff. Does that make sense?
Well, in this case, I would say I will accept the way it has cropped it automatically.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
just want you to do this with the app the way it does it, and then put it into this folder.
Yeah. I mean, that seems entirely plausible. I'd have to try that particular app to see. One of the things about shortcuts is there are built-in commands and capabilities, and then there are extra capabilities that particular apps can add to it. So, for example, if you say, well, show me all the things that shortcuts can do in Apple's music app, it'll say, well, the music app can get the name of the current track, and it can, play and pause and what have you. So some app developers provide shortcuts with a nice, rich list of, here are all the different things shortcuts can do in my app, and other app developers don't. So it's really a question of what capabilities has the developer of that particular app that you want to use for pictures exposed to shortcuts to make available. And I wouldn't know without looking.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Well, thank you for
Murray,
a fantastic
Murray.
presentation.
We need to move on.
Yeah, I just,
Thank
yeah,
you.
I'm
Hey,
gone.
Joe, again, absolutely outstanding. Thank you so much. Now you can take your presentation hat off and put your work hat back on.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate everyone's kind attention. I'm actually working on hopefully releasing a new book today, if not today, then tomorrow, about solving Mac problems.
Oh.
So it's been written, it's been edited. We have some additional stuff to do before it's ready to go. So that's what I'm working on today.
And don't you have more books coming down the pike soon also?
And how?
Did I read that
Absolutely.
6 or something like
Oh,
that?
yes. We have many books coming later this year, new version of macOS and iOS and iPadOS and watchOS. And so very many new and updated books coming later this year. So busy.
And with all your colors, Macs are always so colorful, it would almost make me want to change. And I'm going to zip my lip with that. Have a good rest of your day, as they say.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Joe.